Let me give Jesse just a proper introduction. Officer Jesse Guardiola is a senior officer with the Tulsa Police Department. He was the first in his family to graduate middle school, high school, and college. He graduated with a criminal justice degree from New Mexico State University and serves as the Hispanic Outreach Liaison and an Academy Instructor with 18 years of service. Please welcome Jesse Guardiola. That's right. Are we doing lights? All right, he's got the lights coming down.
You're in the way, Bill.
I'm in the way, Bill. All right, I'm out. All right. All right, I'm coming down.
Is there any way we can expand it? Thank you. So we can get the whole slide in there. While he's working on that, as he mentioned, I am one of the instructors at the Police Academy, and what I cover is something pretty progressive for our agency, and that is how to build relationships with the Latino community, because as all you know, that is the newest pioneers in this country, and what that looks like in building relationships with them. But what I stress to my cadets when I finish their instruction is I always end with this slide, because I want them to know that this is why they do what they do and why they chose to be police officers. The three things that I put up in their last PowerPoint slide is believe in what you're doing, excel at protecting the weak, because God demands it. And the third is always have compassion. And that one is the one that we sometimes struggle with as officers, because on a daily basis, some days officers deal, what I like to say, from the bottom of the barrel up, in people that don't want them there, that don't want them around, and truly aren't there to be an ally with you in solving the issue of crime. So they tend to lose a little bit of that compassion. And what I want my new officers to know is that you have to, day in, day out, always have compassion in what you're doing. With recruitment, when it comes to recruiting minorities, Hispanic, African American, it has to be in a two-pronged setting. First is going after the youth. And what I mean by youth is going after the youth when they're extremely young, elementary age. This is where, in my 18 years experience and heading up recruiting for 10 years, you need to get in front of them before somebody gets in front of them and tells them that you are not their friend. And I believe that at an age of 8 to around 12, these babies still look at the uniform as something that they can be proud of wearing someday. At that age, being in front of them in schools, church gatherings, or wherever you can find them, and let them see you in uniform, let them see that you are there in a different capacity. I believe this is how they start thinking for themselves, wait a minute, I had a police officer that came and spoke to me once, and I really enjoyed him. What they're saying about this officer in the streets or the gang member that's in my school may not be true, because that officer treated me with compassion. That officer treated me as a human being. The other is you need to meet them where they're at. And when recruiting, as far as we require a bachelor's degree, so you spend time where the largest demographics of minorities, African American and Hispanic, as you know, are the two largest. And what I want to bring up here is just to show you where the demographics are for the city as of 2013, and then where we are as a department, and where we struggle, and where we're doing not too bad. For those of you that can't see it in the back, the top U.S. Census data of 2013 is, it starts out with African American, and you're looking at 10.6% of Tulsa is African American. Asian, 2.6, Hispanic, 11.6. As you can see, Hispanic has now jumped over the African-American numbers in 2013. Now, if you look at the Tulsa Police Department's demographic, African-American is 9.2. We've done, in the last 20 years, with Major Yates and Chief Bean, the last 20 to 25 years, it has been an aggressive attack to narrow that gap, just like Major Yates spoke earlier about. So we're at 9.2. We're closing in on the African-American numbers because what we want to do is resemble the community that we patrol, right? So at 9.2, we're almost there. But as you can see with Hispanic, it's 2.76. And you can see that the 2013 number says 11.6. So that, we're at a crisis mode. And it has to be a decision as a department, as a city, to say we have to aggressively attack this number. And you might ask, well, why is it so low? You fight two big things. One, the average age of Hispanics in the state of Oklahoma right now is 14. So we will get there where you'll have the pool to recruit within the state of Oklahoma. But they're not there yet, right? So we have to go to states like, as Major Yates pointed out, Texas, and I came from New Mexico, to recruit that second and third generation American and want to come to Oklahoma. The other is the issue with the polarizing politics when it comes to immigration. Much like the history with the African American recruit, they were told one thing about law enforcement. Well, the same thing with the Hispanic community. They do not want to send their children to become police officers, send them to college to become police officers. A case in point with me, when I told my father I was a criminal justice major in college, and he was a construction worker, and he looked at me and he said, I did not send you to school so that you can beat on people. And he was using his life in Mexico, as many do that are new to this country. They look at law enforcement as the way they were treated in their home country. And they make the connection, they think that it's going to happen here in the United States. And they look at it as, I made an investment to send you to college, but not for that. So we have to get over that hump. And that is selling this profession not only to the applicant, but to the family. So it's going to take an aggressive approach. We are doing that. Like I said, Chief Jordan is extremely supportive. The administrative staff of the police department is extremely supportive of doing this, but it is much like the African American numbers, where it took us 20 to 25 years. We're looking at the same thing for the Hispanic community. I'll end with this. One thing I say, again, to my cadets is what you do to a child today, you do to society tomorrow, as many of you know. But I'd like to add is what you do for a child also, you do to society tomorrow. So as we continue to work with the youth, that too is going to take building blocks, but it's where it starts, and this is how we get rid of the sins, as he talks about, and this is how we build those bridges. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.